Everybody. My voice almost back to normal. I'm probably 70% today. Still not 100%. Still feeling rough. Anyway, welcome to the show. Channel members Ivan, Rob, Jerry, Don, Andrew, Mark, Craig, Svenmore, General, Rush, good to see you, sir. David, Skaggs, good to see you. Hugh, Bike Trash. That name still cracks me up. Ted, Diane, good to see everybody. And my channel subscribers, welcome. Welcome. PCE coming in right there. Month over month, we got a little rise. Year over year, we actually got a decline. Slightly. That's not good for cutting rates. And the market reacted negatively. Well, what do you know? What do you know, right? Imagine that. So looking at the calendar here, we're on the last trading day of May. What do you know? What do you know? And personal income coming in. It's kind of interesting, right? Personal income coming in a little better than forecast. A little personal spending coming in right in line. I don't know. These are economic numbers. Very, very difficult for everybody to separate the economy from the stock market. It seems like it's the same thing, but it's not. The stock market is a market of prices that we bid on and driven by mostly by sentiment. You can say, well, a stock price is dependent on the company making earnings and blah, 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 blah. But I can give you countless examples of things that make no money and go absolutely crazy higher, and things that make tons of money and do nothing but sit flat. So it's not really, future earnings and potential and all that. It's more about human sentiment, really and truly. All right, when humans get excited about a story and believe in something going up, we pump money into it. When it's boring and there's no story, we kind of leave it in the dirt. So really, a CEO's job as far as managing stock price is to keep it relevant and drive story so that people are excited to invest in the company. And that keeps your stock price ripping higher, despite any kind of crazy earnings, not having earnings. I mean, we see companies all the time that have no earnings, losing money, yet the belief that they have some sort of awesome story that's going to, be awesome in the future keeps the price going higher. And that story can go on for a long time. Amazon for a long time lost money, made no money hardly at all. And then all of a sudden became the behemoth, so they kept the stock price going until the company actually caught up. So lots of that going around. Tesla, it's one of those that the world kind of believes that this is a horrible investment right now because all they get is our mainstream media. And if you believe that mainstream media narrative, like, this might be what happens. Coming up here, yesterday we saw cars hitting the street for the first time with no drivers. We had a company representative passengers monitoring the cars, but they were, on the streets of Austin, they rolled out the cars with nobody sitting in the driver's seat. No incidents. Nothing happened. In other words, it worked. So it's kind of crazy. That's AI. Like, most people have no idea that AI is driving those robot cars. And it's one of those, we're going to have a paradigm shift. Now, the thing, when that news broke, this took a big dip right there. Uber. So it's about controlling your narrative, right? Like, is Uber going to be able to stay relevant? Funny enough, that hit the hit the target. That news broke, and this is expected to come back down. Like, that's just the price pattern right there. So it's kind of interesting. I'm very fascinated with where all this is, like how this story is going to unfold. Like, how does Uber and Lyft, how do they play in with Tesla jumping into their market? Yeah, this one right here is a watermelon seed squeeze. There. Declining highs. Rising lows. This one likely to keep playing out. In that zone right there. Interesting. You know, when I say it's interesting, it's like, it's not necessarily tradable. It's just, after watching years and years of price action, I'm fascinated when these patterns just show up and it keeps doing that. It's interesting to me for that reason. Looking at this is the S5TW. Stocks above their 20-day moving average. We double topped this thing, or triple topped it, depending on how you want to count it. 1, 2, 3. That usually precedes a trip back down to the bottom. We spent more than enough time up there to set it up to go back to the bottom. And that'll be less than 20% of the S&P 500 stocks above their 20-day moving average. S5FI. This is S&P 500 stocks above their 50-day moving average. We did spike this right here. But do we need one more trip up before we can roll this down? That is the questions in the back of my mind. And this is likely where we're going next, though. We're here. How long do we stay up here before we go back down here? It's just the cycle of the market. All right, and now this one can take several months to go from the top to the bottom. It's it doesn't have to immediately. We could do something like this where we dip and then go make a bigger move. We could dip, go make a bigger move before we roll on down. So that's S&P 500 stocks above their 50-day. It's just potential that we're cooked on the upside here. And then stocks above their 200-day, a slower one. This spent a long time grinding the top. Quickly went from the top to the bottom in just a matter of a couple short months. And we're likely to go back to the top again. But how do we get there? The last time we were down here, it took us a year and a half to get up to the top. So could easily take a year and a half. Could be in 2026 or so by the time we get there. Fits with the narrative I've kind of been locking onto a little tighter here, that we might actually go up from here, experience a high in 2026 before we go down to a bottom in 2032. And that prediction was made in 1875 right there. This thing right here, 1875. Think about that. Look at this. 2019. I mean, look at 2007. I mean, look at this. It's kind of crazy when you really look at this as far as the way this market might go. And we went down into a low. We kind of bottomed out right before we went into 2023. Up into 2026. Down into 2032. I mean, it's kind of wild, right? I mean, hard to believe that somebody that long ago. And that's all just based on psychology of human behavior right there. That cycle. It's kind of wild. I find these patterns inherent in the market to be absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. Not everyone can afford to self-drive. Plus, you have to find a parking space. So the whole thing is going to be you don't have to own the cars. You can just rent them, and they can be pennies on the dollar compared to Uber and Lyft. So that would be the interesting. It's a whole different paradigm shift. Like we're pricing humans out of that market right there. But since the crazy thing is, so since so many people have lost their full-time job and went to gig work to make ends meet, especially the lower end consumer, what happens when we start pricing out that lower end gig worker from making any money in those jobs? What happens? Could be the 2032 big down. This isn't, I'm not drawing time on here. Maybe we do this period of prosperity out of where we are into 2026. Possibly, maybe this takes on out here. Possibly. Jump up to a monthly chart. And maybe this goes a little slower. Maybe we actually take it up into next year. Right up in there. And then experience a down. Maybe into 2032. Maybe we go up again and down again. That'd be interesting, right? Anyway, doesn't make us any money today. How do we make money today? Check this out. I booked another awesome trade right there. $200 on Rocket Lab. Kapow. I'm bringing it up almost to $4,000 so far. Total gain on the 50K challenge. Look at this, baby. Where's the losses? There are none. No losses. I've booked 100% win rates since I started this challenge. The all-time history of the account does have some prior losses sitting back here from 2020, coming out of the COVID lows. I bet on something and it went to zero. And then I left this account just for dead because I wasn't a big fan of Robinhood back here. Funny enough, the app hadn't really changed since all the way back here. Now here we are, refunded the account, decided I'm going to use this. Now, why did I do this? It's because I'm pushing a high volume of options, and Robinhood has no fees. They don't collect any kind of fees or commissions on options. I'm pushing like 30 options a week right now. That gets to be some serious chunk of change when you start adding that up. When they're charging like 50 cents an option in and out, 50 cents, that's like $1 a trade. You're pushing 30. I mean, that's $30 a week. You do that 4.3 times a month, it gets to be like $150 a month. That adds up pretty quick. And then as I scale up even bigger, so why using Robinhood? That's why. Saving myself a good chunk of money. Anyway. So that's the 50K challenge update. Still got a ways to go. My 1 month. It's funny because I look up on Robinhood, it says I'm at $3,300 for the month. Use K-Info, and I guess the way they attribute the dates of the trade shows 2.88 for the month. This number, of course, we reach the goal when this number becomes 50K. 50K. And then this number, the 3 month, has to become 150K. And the 1 year, it's going to have to be at least 300K. That's 6 months in a row. But it's probably going to be more like, it's going to probably be closer to 600K. So you take 50 and multiply by 12. So I got a ways to go. That's bottom line. Ways to go right there. If you want to be involved in that, channel members get daily updates on what I got open. And if you want to see every twist and turn and trade I make in real time, Turnmeyer Trading Labs is how you get that. It's a whole portfolio management. Am I just selling puts? No, I've got other stuff I'm doing. Not a lot of other stuff, but I'm using all the knowledge of everything all the trades I do. Going for the highest probability. As you can see, 100% win rate. That's pretty high probability. I've done 38 trades now since I started this. Let's see, where is it? I think this is 38 trades that I've closed. And rocking and rolling. There are some things I held in here. You know, I've got a couple shares of these. These were market roadmap patterns, the daily trades I talk about right here. Some of the stuff's been in here for years. Like I bought these. I think the cost basis on those is like $5, maybe $7. I don't know. Some stuff, like some of this is stuff that I guess these two probably are things that Robinhood gave me and I never sold. Maybe I should have. Anyway, just left them in there for dead. That's what we got. That's what we got. Interestingly enough, we go on the 3-month leaderboard. We click on average gain. I'm coming in here at number 6. Look at winning trades. I'm in here tied 3rd place for number 1. Right there. Yeah, 37 trades. Not too shabby. Moving on. Overnight. Golly. So right here is where that PCE came out. That was the reaction. We went from here to down here. Now we're working on this, bringing it back up. This so far looks like 5 down. So we're back to where we were a couple days ago. We may today, possibly into Monday, experience a 3-wave retrace. That would potentially set this up. Get this high, got this low, got this. For the next move down to look something like this. Move it up a time frame. Then the next move after that, roughly wave 1 down. Retrace it back to here. And that next move down, somewhere in that vicinity. After we did a little correction off the trend. That could set the next rally back up here. And set up the final move. This. Something like that. And we possibly could go deeper, like it could easily extend that right on down there. That's what it's looking like we're shaping up to do, at least right now. That's S&P for you. So today, probably going to get a little rally out of the lows here. That's the... Guess we can go with the cash index now that we're open. Check that out. See what we got cooking. I don't know. Do we rally on ES or do we just push it on down? Maybe we just push it on down. We're getting below that 1 hour. 4 hour right down in here. Might just let it go. Come down, hit that, then do the bounce. See, I drew all those arrows and could be this just gets bigger immediately. Could be that's the high. This drops immediately down to the 4 hour. And then we get a retrace like this. And then the next move be something like this. And that'd just be the first move down. And then we get the retrace and then the bigger move down. So that it still puts us about the same place. So yeah, roughly we're gonna cruise on down into this vicinity over the coming weeks. Right in there. Interesting. When all the numbers kind of play out the same. That's what I say. Like, PCE has nothing to do with the market move. Like, we're probably going to correct where you came up. We're, stupidly bullish here. And we suck people in, and now we're going to gut people. Russell, arguably more bearish. Watch out for this one to break on down very quickly. We can get down in this zone. Oil, continuing the slog here. We did make a lower low. Did trigger an alert for me that this was a lower low. Right there. And we're back to just chopping sideways. So stock at rest tends to stay at rest until something changes. So sideways until we can break either above the resistance or below the support. Nothing clear. No clear trend. It can just sit there. Gold has the 1-2, potentially working on the next 1-2. Still looking for this to flush on down in the coming days. Probably drop back into this area right in here. Pop up again maybe. And then go down even bigger. So Bitcoin coming on down, 4 hour, not that far away. Daily is much further away. May come back to that area. 92 is kind of what I've been saying. Careful. Ethereum sitting on top of the roadmap line. NKD. This has got the setup for a big drop here. Do we need the weekend for something bad to happen? Could come in Monday and then all this stuff is epically red. I mean, we've seen these daily options, these 0-day options kind of holding up the market. But what happens over the weekend, there's no like 0 days to hold up the market. So things happen and then reactions occur. I mean, it's kind of what we saw over here. Saw this get going in a big way, mostly over the weekend. That's where we get the big gaps. We saw this kind of get going over the weekend. Push us down violently. See that bottom was on Monday, right there. And this has got a big setup right here to, that was the high back here in July last summer. First move down, retrace. First move, second move, third move could be, this could go down pretty hard. It's kind of, always look that up backwards. USD. Can never get it straight which order it's in. So this right here, maybe it doesn't, like, since it's down below the roadmap line here, This is big pressure that could set this up for a bigger decline. That move, that move. We could be looking at a move that does this. That would be an epic strengthening of the yen against the dollar. And it hadn't been there a couple years. The big three-wave up. What would be crazy if it is if this went like that. That would hurt. Looking like this might come back to the monthly roadmap line right there. That fits with the whole thing about bonds in Japan getting crazy. That this might come back down, and this would blow out. That would absolutely blow out a Japanese carry trade right there, and cause economic devastation. So the dollar here, is it going to rally back up to the roadmap line, or do we continue to flush this on down? Hit these targets down here. For a long time, I thought we would go on down, and I still kind of believe it. Like, we did come down to the point where this could be complete on the downside, but there's always the chance that we take this back to the lows that we've had for this kind of resting price lows. Back down in here. We take diversions up, and then we bring it back down, and then we take a diversion up, and we bring it back down, take a diversion up. Is this the point where we break out and go higher again, or are we going to continue on down and make a lower low over here? You know, a strong dollar would be rough on the world. A weak dollar allows everybody to buy more commodities in US dollars. So look at the GC is not tied to the dollar, so even though it's priced in dollars, you gotta decouple your brain from dollars. Apple stuck in this consolidation and might flush down. Amazon stuck at this point. We have this corrective pattern. It shows up on Apple, shows up on Amazon, shows up on tons and tons of charts, shows up on Google, shows up on Meta. Microsoft already did it and potentially going to pop up to a new high, 486. NVIDIA shows up the same pattern there, potential to flush on down. Tesla. Jim Cramer was talking crap about this move today before the market opened, or before when I first got up, I saw a post about it on X. He's talking about like NVIDIA should be going higher. It's blah, 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 the crazy big earnings. So probably because Jim Cramer's talking that it needs to go higher, this is probably going to go down here. It's just the funniest thing. Anyway, Tesla, already mentioning, it's about stories. Is the narrative going to change here? And this breaks out of this potential. I mean, we have this downside potential, but we also have an upside potential when you zoom out and look at this. We didn't quite make the targets on the upside, and we could possibly continue it right on up to 700, maybe even 1,000. This could be a longer term, bigger picture upside go for Tesla. Anyway, just focus on the current price pattern and the way this is. It looks like we could potentially experience a downside, but it's not lost on me that if we break above 400, it's probably changing the odds that we're going higher. Ulta, look at that pop, baby. This thing has a beautiful potential pattern here. Now, it also has the Mag 7 pattern. If we copy this, paste it over here, it could do that. That's why it's drawn on here that we could do that. And I need to correct it just a little bit to this new high. But we could also break out through this gap down. We left a gap right over here. Nice big fat one. If we can break out through that gap, 611, possibly 640 on the upside. Look at this craziness. Dumpster fire making the list. Making the list. Checking it twice. Look at this crazy piece of garbage. This the only reason this has got this giant up here. Look at this. 1 for 12 reverse split. 1 for 10 reverse splits. 1 for 2 reverse split. So that's what we got. 120, 240. Cool. Thanks, Tesla. Another one back here. 1 for 3. So 240 times 3. It's like 750 minus 30. 720. 720 multiplier for the prices that were back here. Holy moly. So this is a crazy squeeze, I guess you might say. And probably going to come back violently down to the bottom again. Yeah, don't mess with stuff like this. Don't mess with stuff like that. It's just, that's what I would say. Zscaler hitting the targets, 274. Possible has more upside to go. If we can keep the party going, it could come all the way up there to 600 to 700. It's going to have pullbacks and stuff along the way, but that's based on that bigger pullback there. Upside potential. We didn't get all the way down though, so this may run out of steam here in this vicinity. Right there. Then we may pull back again before we can push on higher. SAP pulled up the wrong one, of course, as always. That's sitting at the target, so watch for a pullback. That's it. That's Pachow. Toyota Motors. Just consolidating here right there. Just is that I think we discussed this yesterday. Is this some sort of head and shoulders pattern here? Or is that, just going to be, could be like this. Very difficult to place any. I would say there's a big resistance right there. So if this does break out of this head and shoulders, watch for that, and then watch for that. Let's see. Another biotech. Another reverse split. Look at that. 40x multiplier on these prices over here. So that wasn't 40, that was $1. Craziness. Another dumpster fire, basically, right there. Plus, it's biotech, so you got to be careful. NVS, wow, pushing up to the top here. If we could break through 120, 123 upside, but if we reject, Support back down here around 100. Decliners, Regeneron. Let's see what we got cooking here. Hey, good looking. What you got cooking? Coming into support. That can potentially... So I'd say the line in the sand for the downside, where you don't want to be holding this anymore, probably down here around 370. And if it can find support, turn back above the roadmap line, right in here at about 600. Could be looking at some crazy stuff up there in the 3000s. That could take a while. Like it's not just going to go there like next week. That's wild. Wild upside there. IONX, which is IONQ with 2x leverage. Taking a little drop there, and this may come back down. Has the setup to go out to 62, but it also has the potential to retrace more deeply. We'd be very careful on that one. LU came up just shy of the target, probably consolidating here before we reach on up 140, 150 upside. Airbnb, are they going to be able to remake their company into the everything app, book experiences, book all the stuff? I don't know. I don't think they're doing a very good job managing their narrative, and this looks like we're probably going to go lower. Big downtrend so far. Like I said, you got to get humans to believe and be on your side. I mean, there is the potential that this was the low. This is the first move up, the retrace, and the breakouts. That'll be the tell right there. If we do that, who knows like how high this could go, but right now it's a downtrend. BioNTech. Boy, the narrative around COVID vaccines has turned sour grapes here. This thing, big bubble pattern. Can easily bring us right back down. Sometimes they take longer to play out than others. That's that pattern right there. Right there. Bulls consolidating on the roadmap line. Possible potential. So it probably needs a retrace. Like, quite honestly, it's move up. Probably needs some sort of retrace before we can go higher. It's 3x leverage. Be careful on leverage. Newsmax. Well, what did I say? When we had this up here, I was like, well, that's coming back down. We're going to make a lower low. You can almost set an alert there on that low. This is likely going to make a lower low. It's like 90, I think it's 95% of stuff IPOs. Yeah, this was an IPO, if you didn't know, for Newsmax. 95%, I think it is, start out with a corrective pattern that, you can say, well, that looks bullish to me, but no, it's actually bearish, and it's probably going to go lower low before we can find a bottom that we can build a base off of and go higher. Nearly every stock that IPOs does this kind of thing. It doesn't necessarily spike like crazy, but it will make a bearish pattern that goes lower. And there's very few, like some of them take a long time to play out, like this one. This one has taken a long time to play out to the bearish side. Took years. And now it's finally made its bottom likely and starting to turn up off of that. And a snowflake there. Other ones that, you know, maybe you were trading back here, maybe you weren't in the early days of Meta. But look at this right here. Went epically lower off of that IPO. Hyped up and then right down in there. They almost all do it. It's very high. So other stuff like Reddit. It's been a recent IPO. It did make a lower low down here. But is that the low? That was only 3 moves up off the low. It might come back down over here and make a lower low somewhere in the future. Other stuff like ARM also. Yeah, this one did make a lower low here, but that's not bullish price action there. Could be preceding a flush out down to. It's like it kind of like starts with hype, right? We don't know what the chart looked like when it was private. We don't know what that hyped up chart looks like. So it could have gotten a sky high valuation and then come back a little bit. And then this actually be coming on down here. It's just the way IPOs tend to work. It's weird. I think it's weird. Anyway, other fun stuff today. Marvell retracing till that's another biotech. Looks like SNY. That's gone nowhere. Restoration Hardware, pulling on back. That's probably going to do a. It's probably going to do a 618 retrace back into this area. Right there before we find support and turn higher again. Baba, I'm still expecting this one to crush on through the roadmap line and make this move on down in here. Maybe not this deep, but definitely down in here. 80s. SMR. Hit the target. Probably going to retrace now. That would be my next expectation. Hit right in the target. Boom. Now it could, it very easily could climb the fib ladder, go on up here, pull back, going up here, pull back, going up here. Could easily do that, but the highest likelihood move is to do that. And South Korea, 3x bull. All right, I have some setups that I brought, things that were set up today with entries. Check this out. There's the entry. This does have a statistically significant population at 30. This is not above 80. And this is negative. So I would skip this trade, but if you wanted to go after Gilead, that's your bag, baby. 124 is the upside target right there. Doesn't mean it won't work. It just, over time, over the last 30 trades on this, it's a net loser. For every dollar that you lost, you only made 94 cents back, so you lost 6% basically over time. That's not the strongest player. HLF number 2 here. Let's remove the drawings. We've got this high, we got this low, we got that setup right there, 976 on the upside. And the statistics mean nothing, so cross these out here. We go back to the default, which is 75% likely to hit the upside target at a profit factor of 1.2. And then last but not least, PG. And that grabbed the very small move from here to here. Oops, slightly higher. And that move right there. Closed above the 618. 177 is the upside target. This one, not a lot. I mean, it does make 5 cents on the dollar that you lose. Not super strong. That was a loser. That one was a loser. And those two before it were gainers. I don't know. Not feeling the strongest about now, I like to look at these that have, that's good. That's what almost double what we need. This right here, I like to see this over 80, 80 plus. 80 plus is what I'm looking for. So that's not, it's not over 80. It's close, but it's not over 80. This right here, I like to see this number over 2. 2 plus. That's definitely not over 2. It's close, it's actually below the average trade across 56,000 trades. So it's an underperformer for me. And so all those are all set up and has nice upside potential there. Just not for me, baby. Yeah, others that are still rolling, like the ones I have open in the 50K challenge account. This one just sitting here. 330 upside, PGR. This one's still sitting here. It hadn't really gone anywhere yet. 300, 299. And then WC was the other one I have right here. Sitting here right at the entry, waiting for that pop. So you could take any of those if you wanted to. They're all valid, they're all good. All good. Expectation for the day. Let's dive back in, take a look real quick. So based on this price action, there is potential to rally up for wave 2, but based on this price action, we might just flush now. This would be the downside target area right here. And if we're going to be extra bearish, 56.20 area would be the next kind of bounce point, big bounce point, several day bounce point. So this may quickly erode down into this area right here. So a little bit of differing chart pattern between the futures and the cash. They tend to resolve that through a violent move, and that violent move right now, odds are it's to the downside. So may not happen today. It may run into next week. Be careful out there. We'll be back with you again on Monday. Same bat time, same bat channel. First trading day of June. My birthday month. Have a great day, everybody.